Hello everyone, Sleep here, and welcome back to yet another video. Today we're going to be discussing a very important piece of tech going on within the meta of Deadlock right now, which has become a bit of a point of contention and controversy within a lot of the people playing the game right now. But before we get into why this is kind of a controversial piece of tech, let's talk about how you do it and what exactly it is. Now the tech we're going to be talking about today is heavy melee cancels. Now heavy melee cancels are a type of tech where you're able to essentially cancel melees using active items or abilities. Now this tech is pretty insane on paper if you're aware of how melees work in this game generally, and is even more insane in practice because of some of the other value you're able to get out of it. Now, how do you perform this piece of tech? Well, to perform this, generally what you're going to want is either an ability that you could cancel out of through melee, or one of these four active items, that being Fleetfoot, Colossus, Vampiric Burst, and Unstoppable. Now the basics of how this tech works is if you're charging your melee, you could cancel the animation using an active item. What this will do is completely stop the melee and maintain your momentum going forward, which is extremely valuable on certain characters, such as Abrams here. Now Abrams and a few other characters actually have abilities that also have the same property where you're able to cancel them out of heavy melee. So take for example, his one. This on its own is already really insane, and for those not aware why, this game has a system around parrying and melee where throwing out a melee is a bit of a risk-reward factor. And so often, a lot of the skill around doing melee builds is building around trying to fake out your opponent and trying to bait out the parry so that you can get a big punish without having to worry about a defensive option that makes you very open to getting destroyed. I think the best way to demonstrate how parries and melees work in this game is actually through this bot in our training mode sandbox here. You see, this bot will constantly throw melee attacks out like so, and so what you can do is you can practice your parrying through this bot. How you do your parrying is honestly however you bind it. Generally it's the F key, and if you land a parry here, it leaves them stunned, which will allow them to get punished heavily. What this does is kind of introduce a risk-reward system with parrying and melees, where if you're able to land a parry or a melee, it can be a huge amount of damage and be very devastating on certain builds. Take for example Abrams, who's a character who gets a lot of value out of throwing out big punches and taking a lot of damage because he has a lot of CC that allows him to basically get these big punches for free. So much so they've actually nerfed Abrams in the past in terms of his melee attack speed, now making him the slowest character in terms of throwing out his big melee attack. What this tech essentially allows a lot of characters to do is make it so you could throw out a heavy melee, cancel it, and they'll waste their parry so that that's going to be on cooldown, and so you can get some big punishes with your big punch attack. This is extremely valuable on melee builds, but there's even more value to this tech that I haven't quite addressed yet. As I mentioned earlier, you do maintain a bit of momentum when you throw out your heavy melee attack, as you can see. Now what if I told you if you do this in the air with the correct timing, you could actually get a huge amount of momentum and potentially bolster your movement even further. Take for example, I'm going to jump, wall jump, throw a heavy melee, and I'll be able to slide off of that and get some pretty crazy distance. This makes it not only really good for baiting out parries, but it also makes it a generally really good movement option that especially gets a lot of value out of stuff like the zip lines here, where you can maintain a lot of momentum through your punches. So if you mix in some wall jumping with some of the zipline speed boost here, you might be able to get some crazy movement that you wouldn't be able to before. Now a lot of people have problems with this piece of tech because in some instances it's nearly unreactable. Take for example you're fighting an Abrams and he does a zipline speed boost back, does a cancel, throws out his melee, and is able to just basically get in your Guardian, punch you, potentially cancel again, and just do some insane stuff in terms of just baiting out options. In a way, it kind of feels a little bit unbalanced in terms of how they've handled it here, and while they have tried to alleviate a little bit of the unbalanced parts by buffing parry and such, I do think there are some instances where this piece of tech could be a little too strong. I would love to hear some of your guys' arguments for and against this piece of tech and how you guys feel about it, since it does seem to be a bit of a contentious topic within the community right now, and I'm really interested to see how the developers handle this in the future. If you got something out of this, whether it be like learning how to do the tech itself, or potentially just being entertained by the interesting debate discussion going around this game's meta, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, it really helps with the channel, and until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. See ya!